Hey, everybody, before we get started, wanted to share with you a little something different we're going to be doing today on the podcast. This is actually a bonus video that I'm teaching inside of IHP Level 2, where I teach all of our health coaches how to read their own labs and be able to help others do the same. So there's a brand new food sensitivity test out. It's actually the same test, but an upgrade. So this is a test that you can do right at home. Anyone can do it pretty much anywhere in the world. A couple drops of blood. Kids can do it. Adults can do it. I share more about it, what it is on the show. But essentially what I'm trying to do is open source true health. So I'm teaching you today, as well as our IHPs, what this food sensitivity test looks like, how to read it, and then how to get the most out of your results. So I give you 3 different tests, basically one that doesn't look so good at all, another one that's pretty normal, and then another one that looks great, what happens when you begin to rebalance your gut. So this is all on video today as well. I hope that you enjoy this new style of video podcast as well. If you want to watch along with the video, this is an actual screen share, and it's how I teach inside of IHP, which is simply integrativehealthpractitioner.org. If you want to watch the video today, again, completely free, and that is over at stephencabral.com/1684. So if you head over to stephencabral.com/1684, you'll be able to follow along on video as well. Hope you enjoy it. If you did, please let me know. I'm happy to do more of these videos. If you do feel that it helps, feel free to comment on Instagram. Just my name, Stephen Cabral, in the comments. Thanks so much. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
All right, IHP Level 2s, we are back, and we are bringing you the brand new IgG Food Sensitivity Test. So as we've discussed before, that we will always bring you all of the latest and greatest updates as to where the functional medicine space is moving. So I'm excited to debut a brand new food sensitivity test. This one actually combines the typical food sensitivity test of about 94, 97 foods. Now we're combining it with the Asian foods as well and the Mediterranean foods. So that means that your clients and our clients all together are going to get almost 200 food sensitivities plus the Candida test as well. So believe it or not, we're adding now 190 total foods plus the Candida albicans test. And we're going to be able to do this and help people really figure out what their food sensitivities are to a much greater level. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you this today is that I want you to draw back on your previous knowledge. So if we talked about food sensitivity testing before, which of course we have, we've shared with you the difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity, right? So you look back, you look at your food allergies, those are almost an immediate based reaction. They could cause anaphylaxis, many other issues. What we're talking about is not a disease-based state, but actually an inflammatory state that can happen from the foods that people eat on a common everyday basis that they have no idea are affecting their overall levels of health. That is what it's our job to really go out there and share this information with other people. And always remember that these are CLIA certified labs. This is a CLIA lab, that these are the best of the best. So obviously at Equilibrium Nutrition, and Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, we partner with all of the best labs. We don't own any of these labs. So what I want to bring you today is really an update on what the food sensitivity test looks at. And again, keep it in mind, it looks at an IgG food sensitivity. That means that we need to be able to share with people, these are not foods that cause bloating or gas or indigestion or acid reflux. That's actually a digestive issue. A lot of people confuse a food sensitivity with actually a digestive issue. A digestive issue goes back to a digestive problem. It could be H. pylori in the gut. It could be an overgrowth of certainly bacteria or yeast in the gut. It could be histamine issues. It could be poor food combining, lack of stomach acid. I mean, hiatal hernia. There's many different reasons. Of course, all of those can be figured out. Or there's an actual issue like with the digestion of lactose, right? But that's a sugar, that's not a protein. When we look at an IgG food sensitivity test, we want to be able to share with people that this means it's a delayed reaction to a food that they're eating. So this means that they're eating a food, let's just say eggs, Sunday morning brunch, something like that. And what that means is that they are having a specific reaction 24 hours, 48 hours, or 72 hours later. That means up to 3 days later. So let's say you have those eggs Sunday morning at brunch. Monday morning, or anytime Monday you could have a reaction, anytime Tuesday, believe it or not, all the way into Wednesday, and you might not be able to even recall what the foods you ate were for the last 9 meals or so. So that's why running this at-home food sensitivity test is an absolute game changer for entire families, for kids and adults alike. So again, this shows a delayed reaction, and it can end up as a lot of the symptoms people may not even relate to a food sensitivity because people believe food sensitivities lead to the bloating, gas, acid reflux, etc. No, food sensitivities actually lead to an inflammatory-based reaction, and then in different people, it may show up as, let's just say, it shows up as pain in the abdomen, brain fog, headaches, skin rashes. I mean, any of those issues that can happen, lower mood a day, 2 days, 3 days later, even learning-based disabilities in children. So again, what affects the gut can also affect the entire body systemically as well as the brain. So what I want to do is share with you an update as to this lab. Now, it's not going to look radically different. It's really not. What we've really changed here with this lab, and it's not us doing it again, this is the lab. We're going from what used to be a green to a yellow to a lighter color orange to a dark orange. And again, my feedback was, why not make it green as in good, yellow as in warning, orange as in we're getting really severe, and then red is severe. But again, it's not my lab. That's how I would have done it, and that's okay. What I want to do is I want to take you through this, and this is a video I'm actually going to share with our entire community so that people know the power of at-home lab testing. And this is just a simple test to use as well. I want to teach people the power behind how you can figure out what's going on inside of your body that doesn't show necessarily on the outside. And I also want to showcase the amazing skills that our certified IHP2 level health coaches have. So again, what we are preaching is not diagnosis of disease, not treatment protocols for disease, curing of disease. We're actually looking at underlying root cause issues that lead to a dis-ease in the body. So it leads to all of these health imbalances. So let's dive right into it today. Again, really simple. I'm going to go through the 100 new foods with you today, 190 total, and what it looks like over 3 labs. I literally just picked 3 random labs. My team sent over labs. We've taken out all of the pertinent information about the actual wellness client themselves, so there's nothing there. So what I want to share with you is this, is that the first category, we're looking at dairy. It's still dairy. And so what we're looking at is beta-lactoglobulin. Again, we're looking at specific proteins, okay? We're looking at specific proteins that may react in the body. And believe it or not, yes, fruit and vegetables, all of those things, some have some amino acid-based strands that the immune system could react to. We're not reacting to the sugars. We're not reacting to the fats. I just want you to keep in mind. So we're going to take this really at a base level because I've already taught you those specific skills of what to look at before. But if we move real fast to the bottom of the key here, we can see that anything below a 4.47 is not significant. But for us IHPs, anything, we're going to not use 4.47. We're going to really use 3.5 to 4. So if a client has above a 3.5 to a 4 and it's still in the green, it still means they're on their way to a food sensitivity for sure. And we just want to be careful with the amount that we're eating with that. And then if there's an overall greater picture that someone might have some type of intestinal permeability, of course, we can work on that as well. Not diagnostic based, but we can certainly begin to work on that from a health-based perspective. Okay, anything in the lighter green, it looks like a lime green to me. We're going to go with a key lime green right here. That's between 4.5 and essentially 10. But the numbers are going to be stated on the right-hand side for everybody. And then moderate is the yellow. That's essentially 10 to 16. And then anything above a 16 is considered a very high food sensitivity. So they also give you a nice little graph of your low sensitivities, your moderate sensitivities, and your high. Do keep in mind that anything above a 3.5 to 4, within the low up to a 10, we're going to eliminate those for 6 weeks. That's part of our elimination of those foods to allow the immune system not to see those foods anymore and to allow the immune system to kind of calm down and at least not create any inflammation because it hasn't seen those foods. So no reaction to those foods. If it's in the yellow, we're going to eliminate that food for 12 weeks. And if it's in the orange, we're going to eliminate that for 6 months because that's a high food sensitivity. Now, when people have some of their favorite foods or things like that in the high, it's at least a 12-week elimination and then once a week as a flex meal if they choose to. But really, if we really want to calm that immune system and get rid of a lot of the symptoms that someone might be suffering from, I want them to do it by the book, eliminate the lows, the lime green, the key lime green for 6 weeks. And then we'll talk about reintroduction, the moderate for 12 weeks, and the dark orange here or the orange here for 6 months. So I follow the 6-12-6 rule. If you do that, you'll always remember it pretty easily. So the reintroduction's fairly simple. After that, we've talked about this in previous lessons, but you're going to introduce it once or twice in one day or over 2 days, and then watch for reactions over the next 1 to 2 days, maybe 3 days for sure, but you'll typically get the reaction in the next 24 to 48 hours, and that will let you know if your body's able to handle it or not. If it was a low or moderate, or of course a high, then I don't recommend introducing it even when you are doing well more than once a week for the next 6 weeks to 12 weeks after those introductions have started. Okay, but let's get into the test because again, I've taught you those items before. And so what I'd like to do is show you right from the top. We have an expanded dairy profile showing the beta lactoglobulin. We have the casein, the main protein in all dairy, right? So it's a larger protein-based molecule. We have the cheddar cheese, just basically look at cheese in general. We have cow's milk. We then have goat's milk. We have mozzarella cheese. We also have a new addition, which is sheep's yogurt. So it's nice to see some sheep's dairy in there, some whey protein, and some yogurt. So really great. Again, when you see whey and you see yogurt there, it's cow's based, okay? So we have a separate one for goats and we have a separate one for sheep. Now, when looking at this individual right here, you'll notice from your previous teachings that this is a very highly sensitive person to dairy. That means when this person eats dairy, you can expect some type of reaction. Maybe this person's dealing with eczema. Maybe this person's dealing with headaches or brain fog or fatigue or joint pain or skin rashes of any type. But this is a high dairy sensitivity. I mean, we're looking at way over the 16 for the high. We're looking at double that in the 30s. And oftentimes I don't see people highly sensitive to goat or sheep, but this person even is as well. So dairy is not this person's friend, right? Sometimes we tell people to eat that breakfast sandwich the day or so they're going to do their test. What does that combine? Combines gluten and wheat, dairy, and it combines eggs, which are the top 3 food sensitivities. Well, I haven't looked at the rest of this yet, but I can tell you for sure, this person is not doing well with dairy. And if they had already eliminated dairy and it still shows up this high, imagine what it would be if they had introduced it even just a day or so before. So we typically say people eat their normal diet. If they want to test specifically for dairy, gluten, egg, then have it the day before they run their test for an IgG test. Okay, so very high in dairy this person reacted to. And now, again, it's no question why this person might be having all sorts of different reactions. Now we move on to beans and peas. We see an expanded profile here. I love that they added mung beans, but we'll get to that. We've got adzuki beans, we've got black beans, we've got garbanzo, also known as chickpeas, green beans, green peas, kidney beans, lentils, lima beans, mung beans, navy beans, pinto beans, soybeans, and tofu. Okay, well, if we look at this person's profile, they're all in the green and they're well below a 3.5. So if you're watching this on video, obviously you can follow along with my little screen share here. So what I wanted to share with you is this person's only reacting to soybeans, and they're reacting to it to a moderate to high amount, well over a 10. They're at a 12.81. So this is going to be a 12-week elimination of soybeans, edamame, etc. If they were to eat tofu, well, why would that be less? Well, tofu is a processed version of soybeans. It doesn't mean that you should eat any of these foods. It simply means if you're looking for why soybeans would be more reactive to tofu, it's because the tofu is a processed version of a soybean, and it's been ground down. A lot of the exterior has been removed. The profile of the amino acids changes slightly, and the body is less reactive to this. So again, a really nice filter for which beans may work and not. Now, do keep in mind, people eat beans and they get cramping, they get bloating, they get gas. And they look at this test, they say, well, it's not a food sensitivity. Why am I get cramping, bloating, and gas? And that is because cramping, bloating, and gas are digestive issues and not food sensitivity issues, right? Digestive issues say, oh, you can't handle maybe the fructans in the beans, right? You can't break down the outer layer of those skins in the beans that contain lectins, etc. So what could you do? Well, you could sprout those beans, you could cook them up, you could blend them, turn them into a soup, turn garbanzo beans into hummus, and take the little shells off the outside of the chickpeas, and you might do a whole lot better. So just keep in mind, bloating and gas do not correlate anything to do with the food sensitivity test. If it does, well, then it's just a digestive issue with that food and a food sensitivity. And do keep in mind, you could eat soybeans or dairy and feel absolutely no digestive distress. That's why, remember, it's tricky, and that's why this lab test is so important to run. I can eat dairy foods and I don't get cramping, I don't get bloating, I don't get gas. But the next day, little nasal congestion, right? Little inflammation. I'm still sensitive to that food, even though I don't eat it. So do keep in mind the two don't necessarily correlate, digestive and actual inflammation. All right. So next up, they've added acai berry, which is great to see that they added this. And believe it or not, this person has a food sensitivity to acai berry, and that's very, very rare. But that's why we run the tests, because everyone's a unique individual and they have a unique response. So this person, acai berry elimination for 6 weeks, and then we can try adding it back in once a week. All right, we've got apples and apricots and bananas and blueberries and cantaloupe and cherries. And then we have coconut. Yes, it's a fruit, but we don't really classify it that way since it's predominantly fat. But either way, this person has a sensitivity to coconut. And we know that coconut is so common in all sorts of paleo-based recipes. So it could be one more reason this person's having headache or brain fog or skin rashes. Again, all the different issues that may go along with it. And it's also one more reason why everyone needs to run this test. It's just so important for you, for your clients, your family, etc. Cranberries and dates and figs and grapes and grapefruit and guava and jackfruit. Again, another one of my favorites for meat substitute right there. Jackfruit, kiwis, lemon, lychees, a new addition, mangoes, oranges, papaya, passion fruit, peaches, pear, pineapple. All right, this person's in the green, but they're above a 4.5, right? They're above that 3.5, really, which is what I look for. So I would do a 6-week elimination of pineapple because they're right on the borderline. Why wait for more inflammation, right? Plums, pomegranates, raspberries, strawberries, and watermelon. All right, watermelon sneaking up there to 3.5. The person might not even eat it that often anyway, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it. All right, now we're getting to the grains. Again, just because you're not sensitive to a grain doesn't mean that you need to eat it, and doesn't mean you couldn't have other reactions from the lectins, oxalates, phytic acid, what else, right? Many other issues. But again, it also means that you don't necessarily have to remove it, right? So we've got amaranth, ancient grain, ancient seed there. We've got barley, we've got buckwheat, which is a gluten-free grain, even though it says wheat in there. We have corn, we have gliadin. Think of gliadin as the casein of wheat, right? So gliadin is a very specific protein in gluten-based products. So if you have an issue with gluten, you can have an issue with gliadin. If you have an issue with gliadin, you always have an issue with gluten, all right, because it's part of the gluten family. So always think about that. If you're high on gliadin, don't eat gluten-based foods such as wheat, etc. All right, we're looking at malt added to a lot of beers and beverages, millet, oats, quinoa. Some people love saying quinoa still, but quinoa. We've got rice, a very rare sensitivity to rice. Almost never will you see a sensitivity to rice. This person has it. Rye is more of an ancient form of wheat. It does contain gluten. We have sorghum. You'll see a lot of sorghum gums and gluten-frees. We've got teff. Teff flour is actually pretty decent. And then we have gluten and we have whole wheat. Well, keep in mind, all of these gluten-based products now quite a sensitivity for this person. So we're going to eliminate those for 6 months. You might say, well, it's really hard to eliminate gluten. I understand. And we want to eliminate it at least for 3 months and then maybe every once in a while. But if we want to get well and we want to get well faster, we're going to eliminate this and we're going to do clean gluten-free products instead as needed, right? I had to do this way back when I was 19 years old where I ran a food sensitivity test just like this, and it was a game changer for me, which is why I love being able to pay it forward to you. All right, now we're on to fish and seafood. We have abalone. I don't even know what abalone is. I have no idea what abalone is, but it's a fish and it's there. And of course you can do a quick search on what abalone is. And I'm going to do the same because this is a brand new test that I'm looking at and I've never heard of the word abalone before, but I'm looking forward to finding that out. And that's what it's all about, right? We are on a health journey together. The reason why I love health coaching, the reason why I love naturopathy, the reason why I love personal training, the reason why I love yoga, all these different things is there's no end to it. You can work towards mastery and you should always work towards mastery, but it's never possible to reach the end. That's the beautiful thing, right? Every time you think you reach the end, you go back, you look into traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, the work of Dr. Linus Pauling, like all of these things. And you're like, oh, wow, there is no end, right? So for me, I love seeing new things for me to learn. All right. So anchovies and bass and bonito and codfish, crab, halibut, mackerel, lobster, octopus, oysters. We've got mackerel, a Pacific mackerel. We have Pacific sauri, probably not even pronouncing that correctly. We have perch, red snapper, which I love, salmon, sardines, scallops, shrimp, clams, squid, tilapia, trout, and tuna. This person looks clean on all of their fish, seafood, all of them quite low. Let's look at meat. Beef, fine. Chicken, duck. Egg whites, wow, egg whites off the chart, way above a 16, right? You've heard me say this before. Egg whites, believe it or not, are what most people kind of stay to because they're like, oh, I don't want to eat the yolk. It has saturated fat, et cetera, et cetera. Keep in mind, egg whites are the predominant food sensitivity out there, right? Way more than egg yolks. When you do IgG food sensitivity testing as much as I have, we're talking about thousands upon thousands of labs reviewed by me, you'll see that eggs, believe it or not, are the second most common food sensitivity behind cow's dairy. All right. So eggs being eliminated, at least egg whites, not that people typically just eat the yolks. That's a 6-month elimination. We've got goose, we've got lamb, pork, and turkey. All right, when we move on to nuts and seeds, we see this person has a slight almond allergy or almond sensitivity, I should say. These are not allergies, they're sensitivities. So we're going to eliminate that. We're just going to eliminate that for 6 weeks, and then we'll try easing it back in, or we just pick a different nut to eat, right? If you're doing almond butter or sprouted almonds, well, we can do other nuts as well. It doesn't have to be that, right? We can move on to some of my favorites like pumpkin seeds and those types of things. All right, Brazil nuts, cashews, chestnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, hazelnuts, hemp, macadamia. I'm glad they added the hemp because that is something I'm recommending all the time with hemp hearts. Great vegan-based protein source. Again, I'm not against other forms of protein, but always nice when you can find a vegan-based source with a lot of good omegas in it. Mac nut, another one of my favorites. Peanuts. This person's above borderline for peanuts. They're above that 3.5, right at 4. So I would certainly eliminate peanuts. Not my favorite nut anyways, technically a legume. And that is going to be a 6-week elimination is what I would recommend to somebody. Pecans, pine nuts, pistachios, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, and walnuts. That's a sensitivity for this person. We're eliminating for 6 weeks. Again, person might not even be eating walnuts. I'm sensitive to almonds even though I don't eat them. Believe it or not, kidney beans and almonds have stayed with me since I was 19 years old. I've been sensitive to them, and that's why everyone, again, in my opinion, should run this test because you always have a couple random ones that you would never know, that you had unless you ran this test. So when I eat almonds, well, what happens? Well, I at least get some type of inflammation from an immune reaction a day or so later. All right, on the veggies, we've got artichokes, asparagus, avocado, bamboo shoots, bean sprouts, that's a mild sensitivity for this person, beets, bell peppers, bitter gourd, broccoli, Brussels, burdock, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, chili peppers, sensitivity, cucumber, eggplant, enoki mushrooms, garlic, sensitivity, kale, leek, lettuce, lotus, Napa cabbage, slight sensitivity, olives, onions, portobello mushrooms, potatoes, pumpkin, radish, sensitivity, seaweed, kelp, nori, wakame, and mushrooms. All right. Oh, and we got spinach, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, yams, yellow squash, yucca, and zucchini. Okay. So remember, the length of the black line dictates the length of your food sensitivity, the greatness of that food sensitivity. The larger the food sensitivity. You can see in this person, very small sensitivity. Just, again, it's not even sensitivity. That's a normal immune reaction. Believe it or not, I've already taught you this before, but when someone comes in with they only have like 50% are showing black lines, we often look at that as a shut down gut or an imbalance in the immune system. So you believe it or not, you should have all these little black lines. It's totally normal. What happens is when we have more of the extended black lines into a sensitivity, it could and may show a gut permeability issue or an immune imbalance as well. All right, let's finish this up. We've got basil and bay leaf and black pepper and cayenne, cilantro, cinnamon, cloves, cumin, curry, dill, ginger, hops, mint, miso, mustard seed, sensitivity. Miso is a sensitivity there, a mild one. Oregano, paprika, sage, tarragon, thyme, turmeric, vanilla bean. So someone asked me the other day, why do I get itchy eyes or a headache when I eat cumin or cloves or cinnamon, but it doesn't show up in my food sensitivity test? Well, it's different, and that's because the immune reaction is actually a histamine reaction, most likely in that scenario. So cinnamon or dried herbs in some people cause a histamine reaction. Remember, that is not a reaction specifically to the protein. That is a histamine-based reaction, and I've done many podcasts before on trying a lower histamine diet for people with headaches and itchy eyes and allergy type reactions in general. All right, finishing up the lab, we look at bromelain, which is an enzyme and coming from pineapple. We have cane sugar. We've got cocoa bean, basically chocolate. We've got coffee. We have green tea. This person has, believe it or not, a mild to moderate reaction of green tea. So we're going to do a 6-week elimination there. Honey, mild. Meat glue, off the chart. I did a whole podcast on what meat glue is. If you have not listened to what transglutaminase is and why it's not even put on food packaging, please tune into that show. We'll link it up below today as well. Definitely check that out. And then we have oolong tea. So as I said, this lab breaks it down very nicely to show your low, your moderate, and your high food sensitivities. Again, a 6-week, 12-week, or 6-month elimination. And typically when it's high, we've seen eggs and things like that come way down, but oftentimes it is one that might stick with you. We'll see. Again, we believe that all things are possible. So one more before we go here today. This person, everyone gets a yeast, more of a baking yeast versus a Candida albicans. Candida albicans is actually the fungal-based growth we talk about in the gut. So when there's a yeast overgrowth, sometimes it can show up on a food sensitivity if your IgG, which means your immunoglobulin G, white blood cells are going after that particular thing. This person has a mild Candida albicans overgrowth, no real reaction to yeast. Doesn't necessarily mean they should eat it all the time, but certainly no real reaction. But remember, the only test that we specifically look at for Candida overgrowth, yeast and fungal markers, is the Candida metabolic and vitamins test, also referred to as the organic acids test. Okay, so again, we like to have that because it adds to the total picture, but that's not the end all be all. All right, so I gave you one lab here, person with some potential leaky gut issues, definitely a lot of food sensitivities. This probably explains a lot for this person. Let me give you now, let me see if it's still here. I'm gonna bring to you another lab, just real quick. We're not gonna go too massively in depth, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. So again, if you're watching this on video, I definitely recommend tuning in to see what it looks like. This person has the typical cow's milk dairy sensitivities we see in many, many people. That's why I say cow's milk is not your friend. It's also not your child's friend either. But goat and sheep look totally normal. We see this all the time. Cow is our immune sensitivity, goat and sheep typically not, okay? So if you're looking for a better version of a yogurt or cow's milk, goat's milk, check that out. Typically, Again, this goes for butter. Sorry, this doesn't go for butter. We'll talk about that. It goes for cheese and milk and dairy-based products. Butter, for the most part, is not going to be an immune sensitivity because there's almost no protein in it. And there's also almost no carbs in it. It's basically 100% fat, especially if you use ghee. So if you're worried about the cow's milk dairy, use a ghee, a grass-fed ghee. I've given many recommendations in the past, and that is because grass-fed ghee also eliminates all of the casein here as well. So it's quite a nice product used in Ayurveda. But again, don't need to use it, but you're welcome to. This person shows random sensitivities for kidney beans, like myself, right? I don't eat kidney beans. I don't even eat them in chili, and yet they show up. That's why, again, I'm just showing you this is a normal food sensitivity test. The person probably was feeling okay. They ran it, and yet they show up on pineapple, gliadin, which is that protein in wheat, mild gluten sensitivity, which again, 6-week elimination, and then maybe once a week as a flex meal like I do. No fish sensitivities, no egg sensitivities, mild almond sensitivity, and mild bean sprout sensitivity, bromelain sensitivity, and meat glue sensitivity, which again, I hope nobody's eating. So this is pretty normal, but the person found out that they've got dairy sensitivities for sure, that they shouldn't be eating meat glue. They have wheat sensitivities, kidney beans, pineapples, and we talked about the whey protein as well. So that's, again, like even for a regular person, this is very, very important to look at. All right, now let's pull up one more lab. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Oh, this is the candida for this person. And here we go. This is oftentimes what it looks like once someone has done one of your protocols that we do in our practice that we've already taught to you. I don't want to mention it here in the video, but this is what it looks like when essentially the gut's been healed and it's been repaired and things are good again. You oftentimes, and especially if you're not even eating dairy, still show up for casein and cow's milk. Why? Because it is not a natural food for humans to be eating. Humans typically do have an IgG sensitivity to it, which means they are creating inflammation in their body when they have cow's milk, okay? But again, sheep and goat, much smaller protein molecule, easy to break down amino acids, etc. Easy, 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 right? No bean sensitivities or peas. This person has no sensitivity to any fruits, no sensitivities to any grains, even gluten. They have no sensitivities to fish. They have a mild sensitivity to egg white, not uncommon, but usually we see that one go down as well. This person just as an individual has a sensitivity to egg white. They have no sensitivities to nuts and seeds, no sensitivities to any vegetables. See, no sensitivities to any herbs and spices. And this person's gut looks great. So they have an egg and they have a cow's milk sensitivity mildly. Could they eat these things once a week? Yes, they absolutely could if they chose to. So basically, this is what you want to get to with your clients, with yourself, is a nice healed gut where you're not having inflammatory-based immune reactions every time you eat. That is the goal, right? And again, that's the power of a food sensitivity test. This is also what it looks like when someone has high yeast and candida overgrowth in their gut, and that certainly, in my opinion, that would need to be eliminated. I would still recommend running that candida metabolic and vitamins test just to make sure, but because this could be an older reaction, an IgG immune reaction could show reactions with candida albicans, which is not a food for months even after clearing it up. So just keep in mind, this person could have done something like the CBO protocol, and a few months later still test high on that because it takes time for the memory of that IgG cell to calm down, to squelch down with Candida albicans. It's different, right? It's not a food specifically. So we have 190 foods plus Candida albicans, which is a yeast that grows in the gut. That is what I'm going to give you for today. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm a huge advocate, obviously, of at-home lab testing. Anyone can do it. It's really the best way to take back control of your own health, and something like a food sensitivity is just an easy first test for many people to be able to get into and really see the power of being able to look from the inside out in your own health. Because again, most people need proof that they shouldn't be eating cow's milk dairy, or they, have random sensitivities to kidney beans or almonds like I do, right? So that is what we're teaching. Thank you, IHP Level 2s, for everything that you do for the mission that we're all trying to serve. I appreciate you. Thank you. And of course, keep on sharing this healing message. Take care. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to StephenCabral.com/resources.